Good evening, guys. You know what time it is. It's time for tactics. Hey, so welcome back to the Tactics with Trav channel where we go through all things tactical when it comes to chess. So in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the Zwischenzug. It's one of my favorite tactics, guys. It's awesome. You're going to win a lot of games understanding this, recognizing the patterns in your game. So what it is, and this is why I like to explain it, the Zwischenzug or the intermezzo or the in-between move, it's got a whole bunch of names, is basically something where it's a higher level priority attack. So let's say, just for a silly example, you're concerned about trying to keep up with the Joneses in the neighborhood. You got to mow your lawn because your grass is getting a little bit tall. Everybody around you has got the short grass, so you got to have nice looking short grass to keep up, right? So you're a little bit concerned about that. You want to get it done. And then you're finally mowing the lawn. You're feeling good. And then all of a sudden, a rabid dog from all things, comes out of nowhere and bites you on the leg. And all of a sudden, what you thought was important, which was mowing your lawn to keep up with the Joneses, is not as important as your now infected leg, and you need to go to the clinic. So that's a much higher level priority. You need to go antibiotics. You need to get better. And totally silly example, I get it. But that is how the Zwischenzug works, is you think that something is important in the game, and it is, but then something else comes around that's a lot more pressing. So using this position as an example, this is a game I played just a couple nights ago. I'm going to be on the receiving end of this just to show you how much I care about your chess improvement, because sometimes I miss these as well. So in this game, I played F4. So I want you to pause your videos and calculate the next couple moves for black. The continuation, not just one move, but the entire continuation and the branches that stem from that. And we'll reconvene in a couple seconds. All right, you ready? So F4 looks to be good on the surface, right? So it's putting the E5 knight to question, like, okay, what are you going to do? And then if it moves, then it looks like we have a pawn fork on E5. And that's kind of how I was looking at it. And shame on me. But it doesn't work, because after this, black can play an in-between move of queen to C5 check. And after queen to C5 check, let's say I go king H1. This is going to be one branch. Let's say I go king H1. The follow-up is going to be knight E to G4. So the knight's going to come here. And it's going to threaten a knight fork on F2. And we're definitely not going to want to come back to G1, because that's just, well, you can't, for one thing, because it's illegal. But it's threatening this, but also our knight is hanging on C3. So if you continue to calculate, or if you calculated that branch, it's better to take the knight on C3 with the queen than it is to come to knight F2, where if I come rook F1 to defend against that, then rook takes F2, queen takes F2. It's not as good. You only get 2 points, because the difference between a rook, which is 5 points, and a knight is 3 points, is 2 points. But you get the 3 points if you pick up the knight here. So the difference is, and I ran it through Stockfish, this position, minus 3.62 if you take the knight with the queen, and minus 1.77 if you settle for the exchange, winning the exchange. So in either case, guys, black is ahead, but you're more ahead taking the knight on C3. So that's one example. And if you're not impressed, you're like, Trav, that's only against a B-class player. I want to see how the Zwischenzug works when you're playing somebody who's higher rated. So I have my computer here, and I'm going to pull up a game that I played very recently. And bear with me, I'm going to set up the pieces. I'm an old guy, so we're not super tech savvy. I don't know how to do that. But I'm going to show you this recent game that I just played that demonstrates me on the winning side of a Zwischenzug, and I want you to calculate this as well. Rocky training in the basement, guys. This is where work gets done. If you've never seen Rocky, it's a great movie, very motivating. Okay, so in this game, which is against a 2022, much higher rated player than my last opponent who could have done an in-between move to me. In this game, this other player, my opponent's 300 points higher rating than he was. So he's a 2022, and he makes the move D5. So I want you to pause your videos and calculate what we should do here as white the next couple moves. All right, you ready? So D5 is not a good move because it allows me to jump to E5 with my knight with tempo attacking the queen, and then I can take the outpost on C6 and I can win a pawn. Now, that's assuming that black's queen goes to the correct square, because that's also very tricky. So if you calculated it, knight E5, queen E6, and if queen E6, we go knight to C6, rook B to E8, E5, knight H5, and knight takes D4, winning the pawn. Okay, so that's if black's queen goes the correct square after I attack it with tempo. So let's do the moves now on that continuation. So here, knight C6, rook B to E8, E5, knight to H5, and knight takes D4, winning a pawn. So that is if black goes the correct square with their queen. Let's rewind it. Okay, so back to the original position in this game. If we went knight E5, what would you do if black's queen went to, say, D6? Pause your videos on this one. All right, you ready? So if the black queen were to go to D6 and you calculated it, this is not as good. This is a bad move by black because it leads to a pawn fork. And why does it lead to a pawn fork? Our knight can jump to C6, attacking this rook on B8 with tempo. And after it moves to, say, E8, then we have the pawn fork here on E5. So that's the reason that moving to D6 with the queen was not good. So this actually happened in the game against an over 2,000 rated player. So they're not always the most crazy tactics that we practice a lot on the tactics puzzles, guys. Sometimes it's simple tactics like this, and these are often more often what occur in my games than some really crazy tactics. So just an observation. So in this case, it went knight c6. He went rook to e8, e5 with the simple pawn fork, queen e6, and then my e pawn took on f6, and I was up 3.91 in this continuation. So the difference is if he had gone down the correct path with queen to e6 instead of d6, he would have only been down 0.19 because he would have only lost a pawn. So anyway, guys, the Zwischenzug intermezzo is intermediate move is a great tactic. Be aware of those in your games. Just be very in tune with the position and calculate like everything, because you just never know. Like in the first example that I showed, f4 looked to be good in the previous example, but it wasn't good. So just be very aware of what your opponent can do as well, because sometimes you're on the receiving end of those intermezzos, and that's never a good feeling. So check for those in your games, and we'll see you guys on Friday's video in my round 6 game of the Wyoming Community Foundation Open Tournament. See you next week, guys.